Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the stream. I hope everybody is well. Good to see a few of the familiar faces, all keen and ready to go for Lost Highway. This is a request from Adam, and only too happy to do that request because it's an interesting film. It's one of the Lynch films that I probably consider to be the least coherent of the lot, but we'll give it another go. I did actually have a look at some criticism of critical videos of Lost Highway after it was suggested, and it's kind of an interesting ideas. So we will see how we get on. In news, I have got Pink Flamingos, and I have watched this. It is a really nice release. They've upscaled it and all that kind of stuff just to the right level. They've managed to maintain the fact that it is deliberately a lo-fi movie. So a real pristine kind of like bringing up the saturation and all the sharpness and all that kind of stuff would not have worked for this particular film. So it's a really nice, loving treatment of this film. And I'd forgotten quite how far this film goes. It really does go out of its way to be to try to offend anyone. And there's parts in it you sort of look at, even someone like me will look at and go, "Ooh, I can't believe they went there." But it's a fun ride. It's really cool. It's really cool. I've got to listen to the commentary tracks. There's 2 commentary tracks with John Waters on this particular film. So it's not a film for everyone. I can absolutely guarantee you that. It is very bizarre and deliberately so. From the casting through to the dialogue, how it's delivered. It's all kind of very heightened and weird, and one might say almost Lynchian in some respects. Imagine Twin Peaks at its craziest, and that's that movie in its entirety. But Adam says, nice one, a copy of Flamingos arrived yesterday, looking forward to watching again soon, I think. It's it's quite something. Byron says, I consider this the most coherent Lynch film. See, I wouldn't, but we will discuss it as we go through the film. And it's fine, I now hasten to add that, it's fine that you have different opinions on the film and all that kind of stuff. That's absolutely fine. I can only really sort of go from my point of view. And it's not like I'm not used to Lynch's kind of more obscure approaches to the story. I really had to work hard at Inland Empire, but this is one of those films I for the longest time I found quite elusive. Bought the VHS back in the 90s, cut to the gymless. Yes, I imagine it was. Waters should have interesting commentary. Yes, I imagine he would. He's an interesting fellow, a truly fascinating mind. So yeah. You heard that he was into Alvin and the Chipmunks porn. Well, why the hell not? if that's what floats your boat, I can imagine there are plenty of things I can think of off the bat that are more offensive than that. But there you go. Don't know if he was trolling or not. He could quite possibly be. So yeah, I've spent a little bit of the last week, whenever I've managed to find some clear skies, doing a bit of practicing a new technique for me in astrophotography. So I've been trying to practice a bit at what's called image stacking, and it's, even with the casual effort that I put into it, it's kind of interesting what the results are. So I'm looking forward to October, not for Halloween so much as the night skies. I know, sacrilege, right? Isn't that what Halloween's all about? I mean, Alvin, Simon and Theodore made porn. What the fuck? Dear oh dear. So tonight's show, obviously, Lost Highway. It is a bring your own media. thing. So have your copies ready. I am running off of the UK Blu-ray release, so that will mean it should work with American DVDs and worldwide Blu-ray. And if you've got it kind of, through other means, then hopefully it'll be from one of those versions. Lost Highway ranks pretty high in the Lynch canon for me. Yeah, I mean, I've never said I've hated it by any means, but it has some stuff that we'll sort of talk about as we go along, I guess. But yeah, your latest photos were incredible, Glenn. Oh, well, there's the Saturn and because the main thing I'm trying to do when it comes to that stuff at the moment is try to get an image of the Milky Way. And the only way to really get that is via image stacking. Which image stacking basically is you take a series of photos, then reference photos, and you put it in some software, and it reduces all the noise and brings out the detail, averages out each and every pixel within the picture. So if there's wild fluctuations in a given pixel, it will kind of like go, right, okay, you've got 50 shots of this. That pixel needs to kind of go up or down, and it just basically corrects everything, as I understand it. So I'm looking forward to having a play with that. But the skies are so cloudy just lately. I had literally about 2 hours clear, which is when I took those photos, Adam. So I'm looking forward to actually having a nice clear night at some point where I can, sit around and play for about 3 or 4 hours, which should be quite nice. I'll be doing it in my back garden to start with because, I can relax and have a beer and not have to lug all my equipment out and all that kind of stuff. But, camera's down there. It's just itching to go. But, start giving us a thumbs up at some point when you guys are ready. I've actually ripped this, so I'm not having to play it on my PS3, because if I have to play it on that, all you'll hear is the rather enthusiastic fan of a PS3. I find it shocking, that how bad PlayStations are now for cooling. In fact, most of the modern consoles never used to be a problem. It was never a problem with like PS1 and PS2. Since you got onto PS3 or Xbox 360, it seems like they had to put jet engines into the goddamn things. So yeah, my Blu-ray starts on the Kino Lorber logo. I don't know what mine starts on, but we won't be too far out one way or another. Fingers crossed the clouds clear soon, mate. Yeah, hopefully, I'm looking forward. I've really enjoyed the photography. I have to say, I've shown it before, but. So I picked myself up this thing a few months ago. Just got myself an intervalometer, and radio controlled or remote intervalometer for it just recently to help with the multiple kind of picture taking kind of thing that you have to do with that with the stacking technique. So yeah, haven't progressed back PS2. I got a PS2 and I got a PS3. I got the PS3 that has the compatibility with PS1 and PS2. It was only the 60 gigabyte in the first, I think it was the first generation of them. And then they stopped doing it, which was really annoying. It was really, really annoying. But there you go. I figured that's what you were saying, Blue Iris. Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those evenings. So Kerry looks like she's ready. Adam is ready. This is a just over 2 hour film. The version that I've got is literally about 3 seconds short of 2 minutes and 2 hours and 9 minutes. So if you're in that ballpark, we'll be more or less there. We're going to be discussing in general terms for the most part, so hopefully there won't be too many conflicts. It's a bit of a shame tonight because Kerry wanted to sort of join the stream, but I haven't been too sure about the stability of my internet at the moment because it is still being a bit dodgy. So apologies to Kerry on that one. It'd be lovely to do another stream at some point, even if it's just a talking kind of thing. We could do just a regular Rambleaholic or something like that at some point. But yeah, I didn't want to kind of chance having to reconnect with Skype and all that kind of stuff if things dropped out. So a little bit of a shit. But there you go. Hopefully that will get sorted out soon, because BT finally admitted that there was an intermittent problem. We're kind of like, well, yeah, no, we've been saying that. So hopefully the engineer will be out Monday, I believe, and we will figure out what's going on. Are there different cuts of this, Kerry? I imagine if yours is a few minutes short, it might actually be because it's a PAL version. PAL runs a little bit fast. So, it is okay, we will do it sometime. Yes, it would be cool to do that. It's I enjoyed the last one we did. It's a little bit more complicated for me when it comes to doing hosting guests. It becomes like so much more to do, because I got Skype and I have to set everything up to actually kind of like get the picture-in-picture, yada yada yada, all that kind of stuff, and things rapidly come a little bit more, a lot more complicated. Then if we're watching a film, I've got to wear a second set of headphones underneath my main headset. It's astonishing. Ready for that Bowie track to kick in. Excellent. Okay, well, we are going to get started then. And yours isn't short. Okay. I assume it's full. It's not a cut version, but it might be a PAL version. Okay, stand by, folks. We're going to go on the count of 5 and then go. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. See, mine starts with MK2 diffusion. So it's a slightly different version, I imagine, to yours. I like the way that Lynch is, it gets so much kind of international funding, which is a good thing. I'm going to have to get the soundtrack to this because it is a cool opening track. And a very Lynchian, typically Lynchian kind of opening with the lights on the highway. It's an image that he's used quite a lot. But he likes that contrast between light and dark, and that whole kind of idea that light only really sort of travels so far, and then the rest of the world is kind of just drowned in darkness. Talking about the music of the movie that introduced... this is the movie that introduced me to Rammstein. That's a fair point, Jerem. Lynch is very careful about his choice of music. He's not the sort of person that really kind of just throws stuff in for the hell of it, or just because it's cool. There's usually either a kind of lyrical or textural kind of reason why that stuff's in there. But going back to the kind of imagery that they're using just in the intro, there's plenty of those scenes like in the woods in Twin Peaks where they're just going by torchlight, and it's just a very kind of narrow corridor of light that they're actually running by. It sets a feeling that you can see where you're stepping, but you get no idea what could be coming at you from the darkness. And Lynch uses that on many occasions to quite strong effect. I think perhaps Carrie Page and Dale Cooper back there. You know what? I was a bit surprised he was still around, Gav. But yeah, it's a shame to see him go. Second Henry Rollins flick I've seen in a week. He always just tends to pop up as a small character in places, doesn't he? I did see him live. He did a stand-up. I say stand-up, a spoken word thing. At the Junction in Cambridge. Wouldn't be noirish if it didn't have the smoking, would it? Straight Story is really good. Shockingly so. I was ashamed that I actually left it so long after I saw it. Inland Empire is a challenging film, but it is really good. If you struggle with it, watch it again with my commentary. It might sort of help. Dune, obviously, that is what it is. It's probably his most flawed film in some respects, but still pretty cool. Fire Walk with Me. Yes, Fire Walk with Me is excellent if you're into Twin Peaks. Dick Durant is dead. Apparently based on a true story. That's somebody buzzed on the wrong door and woke David Lynch up in the middle of the night, and that's the only words they said, and he never did find out who it was. It is amazing, isn't it, with Bill Pullman? Film like this, he can look effortlessly cool, and then when he's in something like Independence Day, he's trying to look cool really hard, and it seems so strained in that. The thing is, he's got that kind of he's got that classic sort of heroic kind of figure look. That it's a little bit kind of sad when you see him in films like Independence Day, where he has to be the very kind of much the stand-up hero. Whereas I kind of think he fits much more the sort of lower key kind of heroic type. Not that he's the hero in this, obviously. He's the, I guess, the protagonist, but never did like the straight fringe on. But she is beautiful. But man, this film has an amazing look. First collab with Peter Denning, or maybe the second after Hotel Bruin. You've got to watch Firework with me, Kieran. You're sure you'll love it. It is a film that I think you have to sort of probably watch at least the first season of Twin Peaks before, and the latter half of the second season. I think to get the most out of. So if you haven't seen Twin Peaks the TV series properly, I'd suggest watch that first, even if it's seen in the chronologically out of order. She's definitely got that like 1930s, 1940s sort of bombshell look, hasn't she? This is the part where the film turns into a Jess Franco film. Do you think Lynch is a particularly good friend to the epileptics in the cinema world, is he? So one of the things that a lot of people don't really get about Jess Franco's stuff is that the soundtracks are incredibly important a lot of the time. Certainly with his better films. And you look at something like Venus and Furs in particular, and it's a character in its own right within the movie. You watched Franco's Faceless for the first time a week ago. It's a little bit of a derivative film, but I seem to remember enjoying it. I don't remember too much of it at the moment. I'd have to watch it again. Now, the thing about this film is it is another one in the same sort of vein as Mulholland Drive. And it's a movie of two halves, so to speak. And that's the old cliche kind of thing. And one of the things I always found the hardest to sort of wrap my head around is what is the change about? Why? As it does, it shifts radically. Utterly radically. It's like different characters and different actors. So it's kind of a strange one for me in that respect. And when I found out it was actually kind of the result of two writers, I had wondered if they'd sort of butted them together somewhat. Now, there are aspects of the film which, when you sort of start to get that, start to help to make some kind of sense of the story. For instance, in this half, there is this kind of crisis of a relationship going on, which results, well, as we sort of go along, we'll kind of see that, just in case you haven't seen this before. I did like it, but not a top Franco. It was the Severin version. Yes, they've got a few. I nearly spent 50 quid on about 4 films, but then I saw the postage price, which was about another 40 odd quid on top of it, and I kind of went, really? Their postage and packaging is a bit ridiculous, especially if you're buying in bulk. Those red curtains. Red curtains, of course, being very sort of evocative of theatre. Showbiz. Which often seems to be a concern within Lynch's films. Mm-hmm. Tend to agree there, Kerry. But definitely, if you haven't seen it, watch The Straight Story. It's the one that everybody sort of goes, it doesn't sound like it's a David Lynch film, but it very much is. It's just kind of, to some degree, and I don't mean this in a negative way, it's kind of toned down. But all of his stuff is there. The framing of that shot with the TV is fascinating. It almost feels like the TV's been sort of superimposed in there. Might watch Straight Story again later today. It's a good one. VHS, yes. See, it's another motif with Lynch's stuff is things like, static on TV and things like that. That and electrical discharge, that kind of technological glitching that goes on. It's quite jarring. Quite deliberately so. This is Lynch's home, apparently, or was he bought it for the film? It wasn't really his home so much as they were trying to find a property that that matched the script, and the script basically kind of like had it that you couldn't see the front door from the from the bedroom or something like that. So they tried to find a place that would kind of match that thing. They didn't find one that was entirely satisfactory, but they did. They found this other place and bought it so they could knock it about and do what they wanted with it. Now this scene, this sex scene, is kind of important to the character. Again, with Lynch's films, he's often got that kind of psychological take. We are seeing the circumstances from somebody's particular point of view, as opposed to that kind of third person sort of view. So this world is kind of coloured by the POV character's opinion on what's going on, apart from their thoughts and feelings of what's going on. There's a definite tension within this. I forgot how great the nudity was. It's actually really beautifully shot. But yeah. And there's that pat on the back. Kind of an important moment. So we know there's, trouble in paradise, shall we say? We live inside a dream. What you suggest postmodernism. Lynch's approach to storytelling is very much not a documentarian style. It's an emotional and a psychological journey, and as such, like with bring him up again, Jess Franco, a lot of his better works are kind of that POV character's kind of take on the world. So all the things that happen have to be taken with a pinch of salt, because there's a certain amount of the unreliable narrator going on. This person's recollections are not necessarily accurate. In fact, the most fascinating films are the ones that are so coloured by the protagonist's point of view that it really kind of everything that you see just can't be believed. Got the smoke coming up, and well, what does smoke suggest? It's usually a sign of something wrong going on. A very sinister line. It looks like you, but it wasn't. Just before she screams. So you just had the face of the mystery man appear, who is a fascinating character. It kind of ties into the psychological take, really, that this character is something other than human. Vape, yes. Smoke and vape. I'm glad it's kind of working. It doesn't always. There's not a lot I can do about that, unfortunately, but I'm glad you're in sync. Oh, really, Kerry? Okay. Do share. As I understand it, the guy that plays the mystery man actually, after this had got released, he was on trial for a murder. He was acquitted, but yeah. Well, hopefully that videotape is this time porn. But I doubt it. He does have a sort of perma-distressed and sleep-deprived look on his face throughout this movie. It's appropriate. I think this might be Lynch's most beautiful film. The lighting is blowing my mind. Yeah, he's gone kind of full on with the noir kind of look, hasn't he? Yes, Kieran. I love these close-ups in this. So one thing that Lynch does really well is where he puts close-ups. And it has kind of various effects. Usually it's sort of kind of unsettling being that close to these people. Neo-noir was really in vogue in the 90s and Lynch was kind of in with the zeitgeist here. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Extreme close-ups of Arquette is a beautiful thing, yes. Now, The Usual Suspects is a film I haven't watched in a very long time. I should watch that again. I like that questioning. You sleep in here, both of you, in this bedroom. This there's a challenge to his masculinity, shall we say, throughout his time on the screen, and that kind of plays into certain aspects of the film. But that's the same thing as kind of like we've had modernism and postmodernism. Is what is the next thing, and the answer is usually we won't know until we've passed it. Even I'll get a fucking big dog. That's the names are usually pretty reductive. It's a very general kind of thing to call anything kind of like, horror or noir or post-noir or neo-noir or whatever. But it's just a generalization, a label that you put on it just so you can kind of categorize things. It's arguable about how much worth that has, or if it's the sort of thing that limits an audience. But for the purposes of categorization, yeah, it has its uses. I like to remember things my own way. Good line if you're in court, yes. And an integral line to this story. Yes, what we do. So they're not militant plumbers or anything like that. There's usually something, Kieran, in any good film that kind of a line which kind of informs. It's quite a subtle one in this one, really. Lynch tends to make you work a little bit when it comes to those kind of things anyway, and certainly in this film for me, it's never quite as straightforward. Although, some of the films you can watch in a much more straightforward kind of way. But Inland Empire, for instance, is one of those films that you really do have to kind of find that key to the film. It really is an overwhelming kind of soundtrack on this, isn't it? Sometimes, most of the time with Lynch, the music really does kind of play under the scene. Or it's a part of the scene. But in this, a lot of the music seems to feel very much like it layers over the top of it all, rather than underneath it or with it, if that makes kind of sense. It's like the music in this particular scene is one of those... it doesn't feel diegetic. It doesn't feel like it's actually part of the scene. as such, although it can easily be explained as such. But yeah, that music just drops out like that, and they're in their own little world again, which kind of suggests, it makes implications to what the mystery man is. That he's not part of this world. It's a wonderfully threatening performance, isn't it? I do love the understated sort of aspect to some of Lynch's villains. So many times it's so easy to go over the top, and Lynch does do that within his movies. But you get characters like this who are very kind of heightened characters. They're not naturalistic. But I love the delivery of these lines where it's just kind of... It's just that real kind of bastard villain type that's just like kind of doesn't have to raise the voice. The white makeup does wonders for the skin, yes. Almost looks almost like Nosferatu, yes. There is an unnatural aspect to this character. Not least the fact he keeps his eyes so damn wide open. There's the no eyebrows thing, which also kind of makes him look at that a little bit weird. I love it when a mystery man, men laugh in sync, both in person and over the phone, simply chilling. Yeah. It's a sort of omnipresent character, isn't it? So it's one that you can't get away from. It can be in the room with him, and it can be in his castle, shall we say, in his home. Now, these themes that that Lynch has with kind of like this sort of mental breakdown, which is, with the psychological kind of take that he has with the characters and with the film, it sort of ties in. There's always this kind of mental collapse or mental distress which is going on. Eraserhead, it's the stress about sex and fatherhood. Inland Empire, it's a woman in trouble. All those kind of things. And as weird as David Lynch can seem to many, and fully understandably so, there's a emotional sort of coherence to his films. Is that the mystery man represents jealousy? He says that Pullman invited him in. I don't think you're being pretentious. Not at all. I don't know about jealousy, but this is just my take. If you can kind of flesh that out to the rest of the film, it'd be kind of interesting to hear that idea. I think it's more guilt and sort of kind of an aspect of, because the Mystery Man, I think, is part of his psyche. It's a manifestation of some emotional aspect, and I think it's a kind of self-incriminatory kind of thing. It's basically him torturing himself for what he may be doing. Eraserhead is in fact a critique of sexual degeneracy. I wouldn't say sexual degeneracy. What makes you think that? Be kind of interesting to hear. No, I think it. I mean, for me, Eraserhead's literally about kind of anxiety about sex. The desire to have it and the fear of the results. That kind of works for the whole movie for me. But I'd be interested to hear your point of view. Lynch has never really kind of discussed what it's specifically about in any great detail. So it's open to interpretation. He has talked about this a lot more, though. No one said that that they would willingly invite him in. In fact, he seems very shocked about the fact that of any possibility of inviting anyone in, or anything in this case potentially. So no, I don't think it's necessarily willingly so. But there are things in life that you may kind of bring in. You may invite in that are not things that you necessarily want. You do something, there's always consequences to that. I think jealousy is a part of it, don't get me wrong. But I think there's a sense of humiliation within this film that Bill Pullman's character has. He has certain problems, shall we say, in his relationship, apart from anything else. That pat on the back and all that kind of stuff which is going on seems to be something. Jealousy is less explainable to me, simply because he's got her. He shares a bed with her. But there's a sense of resentment as well. Here I think they're a gateway to Bill Pullman's character's psyche. Theories on the red drapes. I think it's such a common thread, common trope within Lynch's films. I've always kind of got the feeling that it does kind of give the feeling of a theatre stage. That there's something not quite real about what's going on. That it's there's a certain aspect of fiction, of make-believe. And that happens in like Twin Peaks, and it happens in this and various other films. Because it is such a psychological thing that's going on within these films, that there is almost a heightened suggestion that what is happening here is not necessarily what actually happened. It's kind of a recreation, if you like. It's going back to that quote of I remember things the way I want, kind of way. I mean, one of the fun, interesting things with Lynch's characters and stuff, is it's often kind of a question of redemption and stuff like that. You get characters that find redemption and other characters that will never find redemption other than death. Laura Palmer is a good example of a character that, as we get to know her, she's on a low when you first meet her. She's in an abusive family, although that's not self-evident to start with, obviously. But she's taking drugs, she's hanging out with the asshole boyfriend and cheating on him with another guy. It's all those kind of things going on, but as you go through the series, the character's position and reasoning for why she does what she does becomes much more evident. In this film, there's a lot less redemption for the character, to say the least. But there is an explanation of why and what he was going through. And that's kind of an interesting aspect. Rare shots with no lamps on. It's a hell of a scene, isn't it? What do you guys think about Lynch's claim that Lost Highway takes place in the same universe as Twin Peaks? It has a lot of the same little aspects, and if you think about it, Twin Peaks does, like with the Killer Bob and Leland, there's a lot of those kind of ideas that sort of cross over of characters, bad guy characters having this sort of alternate mindset that kind of removes them from the evil that they've done. And that certainly, seems to be something that's within this. And having watched what other people are saying about it, I kind of agree with that. It kind of makes sense, and it's the first thing that really kind of made me look at this and go, I sort of understand where it's kind of coming from with the big switcheroo that it's going to be doing soon. Sound is always so effective in Lynch's stuff. Yes, he does that kind of switching up of quiet and loud very effectively. It's so often the case that when people do that, it's just annoying. In Lynch's film, it seems to be very precise and but when you come to the score and things like that, like I say, Lynch has a very highly developed sense of what music should work where. If you've watched the last series of Twin Peaks, the music that's used in that is incredible. Because it always, most often, ended up at the Roadhouse with a band, and that's not Lynch being just self-indulgent. It was usually some kind of tie-in with what you'd seen throughout the episode, and it kind of works in that sort of respect. I'm going to grab another beer. Did you miss me? I look at the framing of this shot with him up against the wall in the prison yard. Very small. It's very small in a big, wide shot. It almost looks like a Banksy, funny enough. But, beer run, yes. Henry Rollins. I'm glad Henry Rollins made it into a David Lynch film. I like Rollins. Two Copperbergs for me, Indy. It's a little early with you, is it, Indy? You know, Balthazar Getty and Bill Pullman actually do look alike. I don't think he's sleeping okay. No, see, it's one of the things with Lynch again is the whole kind of crossover of the dream world and the waking world, and sometimes it's almost to the extent that the characters can never feel like they're sleeping because they're all almost always within this sort of dream world. Well, I'm glad you can make it. I mean, I absolutely admire your fortitude in staying up till 4 a.m. to watch this fucker. I appreciate that. Thank you. It's very flattering. Just need the woodcutters to come out now, don't we? There's that light going out. Say goodbye to reality. Now there's a very extreme horror birth for you. Do appreciate it when you can join, but god damn, yeah, salute to you, sir, for your dedication. I mean, good God. This intercut with the shack is wild. Yes, it is. It's another one of those kind of crossing over kind of things that Lynch does. Probably one of the more extreme ones in some respects. I think Twin Peaks had something similar. Yeah, the stream's the best live. Spending your holiday trying to find a flipping job. Well, I hope it works out for you soon. It's another Lynch thing where people aren't quite what they seem. You know, they present as one thing and then they become another. They actually, well, are revealed to be another. And this is one of the harder things I find about this movie, is this transitional sort of period between the first part and the second part of the film. And yeah, it becomes quite tricky to sort of reconcile in some respects. I suspect it was probably the hardest part for the writers to actually kind of come up with a way of getting this sort of alternate reality to kind of cross in. Because, you know, even if you didn't get the job, do the employers still tell you about it? I've travelled halfway across the damn country and before done an interview and never heard anything back from them in the past. Sometimes they don't, sometimes they do. They should always do. I think it almost should be a legal requirement that they actually kind of tell you and reimburse you for your expenses. Because I think that's only fair. You spend, you know, I've spent something like about 150 quid going to one job interview and didn't get it. I had to fly. It was right up in Glasgow. And it became apparent about 15 minutes into the tour that one of the guys, for whatever reason, just absolutely took against me. Pretty much knew that. You know, I didn't get it the second that happened. Just went through the rest of the interview and it was like, kind of wasting my time here, now, lads. Yeah, it's worth giving him a ring. It'd be nice if they also sort of gave you some sort of feedback on the interview. I've always found this the more questionable part, but it is quite cool though. Oh, don't get me wrong, it's intriguing. But it's also one of the slightly more forced parts of the film. Gary Busey in a Lynch movie. He used to be a good actor. That's the thing. He used to be a good actor. I mean, he had a motorcycle accident and had a traumatic brain injury. Don't think he was wearing a helmet or something. And his son Jake is like kind of like he almost feels like he lost his father that day, which can happen. So a lot of his erratic behaviour, since when was it? Kind of like, can't remember when he had the accident. His erratic behaviour from that point on really was kind of a result of head trauma issues. See, this is because obviously now we're in the second phase of the film, and one of the reasons I've always found it very difficult to reconcile the first part with the second part entirely, and that's where my difficulties with the movie sort of kick in. I still enjoy it, don't get me wrong, and that's kind of where I feel there's the coherency problems. It becomes more of an experience than it does a story. I heard James Franco suffered a head injury and started being inappropriate with women after. That is possible. I don't know if that's the case with him, but it is possible. It is one of those things. Brain injuries can radically change your personality. Thing is, he can still act and stuff like that, but you do see some of his behaviour off camera and stuff like that. It can seem incredibly eccentric and weird, like he's drunk essentially some of the time. And yeah, I think it's a real shame, but these things happen. The second phase of the film has my favourite scenes though. Yeah. I mean, despite my criticisms, I still think it's a great film. When I criticise the film, it's usually in context of Lynch's other movies, and I think the fact that Lynch has talked so extensively about this film, probably to me suggests that he's aware that the film has some difficulties. And he's wanting to kind of like help people through those difficulties. Sorry, was feeding the fur babies. No, you do what you got to do. We're all very casual here, you know that. I haven't explained my shirt, have I? There. This is my boomstick. Richard Pryor, yes. Nice bit of advice there, Kieran. One of the things about this film that I kind of gleaned from some of the criticism that I was watching is that essentially this is a kind of alter ego of Bill Pullman's character in his head. It's what he's got created. a sort of escape, which would absolutely kind of link in with the so a lot of the kind of Lynchian sort of themes, approaches to this sort of a disassociative kind of thing that some of the bad guys do in his movies. It might seem pretentious, but I feel this film is a bit less obtuse than some of the others we mentioned. Yeah, some people feel that. I think my confusion is kind of more focused on certain aspects of it, like that linking between the first half and the second half of the film, because each half in and of itself is pretty clear, but the links between the two have always been a bit more of a struggle for me. His daytime shots are so great too. Yeah. It's like these mobster guys. They remind me so much of the mobsters in the Las Vegas mobsters in the latest series of Twin Peaks. Smashing Pumpkins in the background of that last scene. Sorry, but one of my favourite bands. Fair play. I've never been into them, but a lot of people love their stuff. So, absolutely fair play. There's always that kind of almost Pink Panther-esque sort of vibe to Badalamenti's work. Just like a dark version of it. Who's the better band, Madness or the Smashing Pumpkins? Well, I've seen Madness live, and I really enjoyed their music. Smashing Pumpkins I just never got into. Not for any particular reason. It's never grabbed me. There's plenty of bands that can be like that for everyone, isn't there? I like the mobster guy is like very kind of this sort of repressed rage, and that overcranked camera as well. Holy shit. Madness were great live. Yeah. I'm not the be-all and end-all in the, as an arbiter of musical taste and all that kind of stuff, so I ain't going to tell you you're wrong. Not by any, I wouldn't want to. I love this. It's like the highway code, if it just delivered by the angriest person on the planet. It is tight editing, yeah, absolutely. But it's also incredibly heightened as well. There's a aspect to it, what with the overcranking and the quick cutting and all that kind of stuff, which is inherently unreal. Now, the question that sort of occurs to me at this point is what this character is kind of witnessing. what part of Bill Pullman's character's psyche is that. Road rage videos have always given me a good laugh. I try to avoid road rage. Oh dear. Yeah, I did put a crimp on a lot of stuff. I didn't know they were still touring, but that was cool. I saw them in Birmingham in... oh, Christ. Trying to think how long ago. It must have been about 15 years ago at least. I was sat in a part of the crowd. I got my long hair and all that kind of stuff, and there's a whole bunch of skinheads around me. We had a whale of a time. It was really cool. We were all there for the music. Do you think we'll get another theatrical feature from Lynch? I think we might. He takes his time and he picks his projects. Nice one, Kieran. No, we had we were all very friendly. We were kind of all dancing in the seats. We were up on the side on like the bleachers and stuff. Hell of a concert. Really enjoyed it. The road race driver is a regular for Paul Verhoeven or Hooven. Do excuse me. I did not know that. She's a bit of an Audrey character, isn't she? I was singing along with the rest of them. It was a very good-natured concert. Monsters of Rock, when I used to go to that, used to get a little bit kind of not violent, but it certainly got very physical. You're down near the mosh pit when Sepultura comes on. It's like, holy shit, dude. Especially being a glasses wearer, I literally walked out of the mosh pit with my glasses gripped in my teeth because it almost got knocked off. At least 7 inches. That's how much he likes her. To grab another beer. Right back. Oh, hello. Trying to figure out what the song is. Okay. Jack Nance. It's that jazz music back again. And that's one of the linking kind of things. Let's say this whole kind of idea that Bill Pullman's character is this is kind of his, almost like his mental break that we're seeing at the moment. He's kind of reinventing his personality. I don't know, Indy. Definitely give her the once over. That's going to be one of the most irritating Italian affectations, isn't it? He really does say a lot with this scene, doesn't he? Kind of like between those two characters, the way they're shot. I mean, it's a cliche in some respect, but it's almost like a really kind of trying to think the way to say it. It's like embracing the cliche rather than just throwing it out. Hey, Simon. Yeah, we're enjoying the film. It's been lots of boobies. So is he a cool musician or a mechanic for real? I've always kind of read it that, you know, he's the musician, but this is his sort of, this is a kind of fantasy. It's a sort of reliving certain aspects of his relationship, but kind of, shall we say, for him correcting it. But there's this kind of duality of the characters that they're trying to do, like they did with Mulholland Drive, and that is one of those things that I've never quite been able to reconcile, because the first half and the second half of this movie are so different in many respects. You know, certainly the story is, the characters are very different. there's a few little commonalities between the two, but it's always been something I've kind of struggled with a little bit. You have a good evening, Simon. I trust you're karaokeing or something, but you have a lovely evening. Whatever you're doing. I love that you do drop in, Simon. It's really good of you to do. It's always nice when people, just go, yeah, just pop it in, say hi. Can't be around for the stream. I have a lovely audience. I have to say, I have no idea what's going on. But if you take it at face value, Bill Pullman, jazz musician, couldn't keep his wife satisfied, ended up killing her. There's a little bit of a... sorry, just crotch grabbing going on. Ended up killing her, goes to prison, disappears, and this guy turns up. And now we're in a story about gangsters, and like you say, it's a tricky one. With even with Inland Empire, there was always something that I kind of had a feeling that there was something always there. But now you're getting this shot with the closer to the eyes in the sex scene, where he seems to have a very different kind of result to Bill Pullman's character, and how his bedroom antics kind of worked out. See where Bill Pullman's character kind of like failed, and that was it. He gets the pat on the back. Now this character is like kind of yeah, I want more. She wants more as well. No, I think that's probably the closest to probably the intent of the movie that that there is. It's kind of where I'm at, Kieran. Although, like I say, I think there is a certain coherence problem between the first and second half. That doesn't quite manage to resolve itself. You can still enjoy the ride with this, though. It's not a bad movie by any means. But where I can even get like Inland Empire and sort of make sense of that movie in its entirety, this movie there's a lot more areas which kind of are left a bit opaque or unresolved for me. But god damn it if it's not a beautiful film. one does wonder how good the pussy must be if you're going to go in up against somebody who's clearly psychotic. But that is, interestingly enough, how does that relate to Bill Pullman's character with the girl in the first half? Those that's a little bit of a mismatch for me. I shan't get into the adverts on YouTube again. We'll be here all evening. The thing with these whole kind of worlds that Lynch does, when he does these kind of psychotic breaks, if you like, these mental breaks, where the characters shift, it always inevitably ends up collapsing in on itself eventually. So reality has a way of kind of intruding. No, I've forgotten quite how much sex is in this movie. Very subtle use of Marilyn Manson, I must say. Lynch is nothing if not eclectic with his musical tastes. Although, we all kind of associate him with the Angelo Badalamenti stuff. When you look at something like the last series of Twin Peaks, the range of music in that was very wide. Interesting mix of known and unknown. Everything from kind of an almost sort of pop rock right through to Nine Inch Nails. And Julie Cruz is obviously a big part of his identity as well. Yes, Kieran. One of the aspects I really do love about David Lynch's films, a lot of them anyway, is this whole kind of idea of this sort of amnesia that the characters have. There's always gaps in their lives. So often, I should say, gaps in their lives. And again, we get that reality sort of kicking in. Which is why, I kind of like say, Bill Pullman's character is the POV character. And this is like the POV of his break, if you like. Now there's an image. He likes having his car repaired by this guy so much he's willing to give him a second chance after he knows he's fucked his girlfriend. There's not many times in people's lives that they go, thank God I'm an amazing mechanic, but this is one of them. We just got through the garage scene, Indy. Currently we are on, at least I am, on 1 hour 25 and 11. It's always a game. Everybody's using. Oh, this is one of the things with the bring your own media stuff is people are watching different formats and are in different areas. So some are 60 hertz, some are 50 hertz. It's like it can be a little bit of a pain. As long as we help each other through, it'll be fine. We're currently at the scene where you've got the two. You've got the two. Oh fuck's sake! We struggle with the names. You've got the two guys basically in the hotel room talking about stuff. We've just got past the scene where he's just been threatened with having a gun shoved up his ass. It's kind of giving him the giving himself the sort of knight in shining armor kind of thing, because she's somehow the damsel in distress. Red curtains. We'd literally just started that scene, Indy. He's doing gun against the head, and he's just gone like that. Interesting choice of music on the scene. Thank you, Banks. Yeah, good. It's quite a captivating scene. I do apologise, I should be talking about it, but good God, and a hell of a cut. And that suggests something as well, the way you just cut that from that scene. She reaches out to his face and then suddenly it's Sargetti kind of thing. I remember a little bit of Wild Palms. Not a lot, but because it came around about the Twin Peaks sort of time. It was just after Twin Peaks, I think, started. Had a kind of similar vibe to it, if I remember right. He's always been a very striking actor, hasn't he, Indy? You can play that sort of frighteningly, really kind of scarily kind of funny kind of thing, but can really kind of lay it on, the whole kind of like suppressed violence, barely suppressed violence kind of vibe. See, I don't remember enough about Wild Palms to really kind of talk too much about it. Like I said, I do think it had that kind of Twin Peaks sort of vibe to it, and I think because everybody was, into the Twin Peaks stuff at the time, I think it kind of suffered from the comparisons, if I remember rightly. Lynch considered him for Frank Booth. That would have been good. See, Gary Busey is fucking amazing in this. It's one of the most grounded performances that I kind of think about with him. He's a genuinely interesting character in this. Did you invite him in though? That's the question. One of the things that is I do consider to be really good about this though is the although the two halves I don't think is particularly cohesive. There is aspects of it that are little nuggets of it that are just the whole kind of breaking, the teeny tiny little breakthroughs of reality that come through in this reality. Be ashamed if something happened to you. And this is it, you know, it's the mystery man. We've met before, haven't we? And I like the way that the mystery man is actually looks slightly confused about the fact that he doesn't recognise him. That this is, you know, kind of an alter ego, sort of such a deep fantasy that he doesn't remember his real life. That even the mystery man has trouble kind of breaking through that. That moment where you know you're fucked up, basically, isn't it? Wow. A close up of the watch, and it looks almost like they kind of like had the wrong lens on, almost, or they kind of like didn't kind of do stuff with the anamorphic to correct it. I always wonder sometimes with works from a director of this caliber, whether that's deliberate or whether it was just maybe they had to blow the shot up or what. I got no idea. Hmm. Gonna kill this guy with a fertility symbol or something. This music is creepy as fuck. Fair, it's slightly odd, but yeah. Definitely one of the odder deaths in the Lynch's canon. Impaled himself on the corner of a glass table. There's something about that kind of thing that Lynch occasionally does when he does a kind of like what can only really describe as that kind of heightened death. That they're so. It's right in the line of that kind of comedy kind of thing. I agree, Blue Iris. You get the feeling there's a certain amount of blame shifting going on in this scene. Apart from anything else, there's a certain aspect of Bill Pullman's character's psyche. You know how he's thinking about his partner, and again, it's that whole trickle of sort of reality into fantasy. And now the walls are starting to crash down. Yeah, I kind of agree there, Indy. Hello, welcome back, Kieran. Rammstein. See, the nice thing about David Lynch's film, yeah, looking at your comment there, Blue Iris, is David Lynch rarely wastes any for kind of like screen time. It's one of the wonderful things about his work is it tends to be so purposeful. Um, Maybe Inland Empire is one of the hardest ones to sort of reconcile that with in some respects until you kind of find that key and you start to realise what each and every scene is actually doing. But yeah, it's just incredibly efficient apart from anything else. And I don't mean that in a cynical kind of way. Just been thinking to myself a bit, I really think I got that job. Really don't think I got that job. They seem laughable to everyone else, but again, it would have meant a whole lot. Don't let it get you down, Kieran. If you don't, think about the interview and all that kind of stuff, and try and think what you can gain just from having done the interview. That always sounds a bit trite and a bit pat, but honestly, it's the way I kind of approach that stuff these days. Is if I go for an interview and I don't get it, I kind of look at it as part of a learning experience and try and figure out what it is from that interview that wouldn't have got me the job, and then try and work on that. But don't get down about it. You're all good. Just got to keep trying, fella. At the end of the day, sometimes they've already made their mind up before the interview process. We all love you around here, mate. You're all good. It's funny, isn't it? You get like in Twin Peaks, the Return or whatever. There's buildings like this which are some sort of like almost like a nexus of realities. Lynch likes his little huts in the middle of nowhere kind of thing. I've had the same feeling with jobs, Kieran. I've gone for jobs that I really, really wanted and never got. Unfortunately, that's part of life. Just try to get what you can from the experience. You never know, you might have got it. But if you haven't, you carry on. It's their loss. It's a very David Lynch piece of music here, isn't it? That sort of very kind of floaty sort of music. Again, with that sort of very specific type of lighting. Lynch really does love that sort of single source kind of lighting. Gladiator music. I haven't seen that film in a long time. I don't think I could watch it again, to be honest with you. You're alright, man. You're fine. We're all friends here. And all I'm thinking is, oh God, the sound must be really uncomfortable. Yeah, Gladiator was a one-time watch for me. Yeah. Am I the only one that wants Electric Six to kick in here? See, again, that's one of the kind of commonalities, or at least one of the points that sort of touches on the first half of the film. You'll never have me. And it speaks more to him than it does to her, by a long shot. Damn, Arquette really went for it there. Yeah, it's a powerful performance. There's a lot of them in this film. If there's one thing about Lynch, he does know how to pick his actors. Seeing that reality's kind of crashing down again. Yeah. High voltage. I need to get another beer. Right back. One moment, please. I'm going to video you. I'm going to video you hard. Now, this whole sequence really does kind of, it does help the film a heck of a lot to say the least. I think because the original change was so abrupt and from left field, so to speak, that transition from the fantasy to reality seems to work better for me. That was just following that comment stream back to Kieran's comment. Yeah. Kieran's the baby of most of us. Most of us here. Oaken Brewery's Inferno this time. It's going down well tonight, I have to say. I do wonder if David Lynch has shares in like strobe light makers. Yeah, you're right, Indy. He likes those kind of going to places out of the way. These teeny tiny little kind of remote locations, meeting places. It is one of the fascinating things with America, places that exist. You don't imagine it quite so much in places like Britain, as for instance. But America being so vast and, for the most part, quite empty. You get these kind of little backwater hotels that are so far out of the way, and anything could happen. It's kind of one of those things that Psycho did so well, was utilise that kind of feel. If you had the chance to direct any movie, which would you pick? I would hope I'd have the guts to do something that hasn't been done. If I was an amazing writer and an amazing director, I would love to do stuff which is in that kind of like deeply psychological POV kind of territory. for the most part, people would probably hate it. I couldn't do a worse job of that film than the people who made it did. Some interesting ideas, with that film. It's just executed so appallingly bad. I think the only time I'd ever do a remake would be if I had something to actually offer with it. It's essentially my philosophy. But, being the artist and being, that's your job. That's what puts money on your table. And that's the sort of thing Jess Franco would always have to wrestle with. He was a director by trade, so there was an awful lot of his stuff that he made just for the money. This is the less sexy version of Laura Palmer whispering in Agent Cooper's ear. But it's interesting because now he's gone. So there's a suggestion, what's going on is the mystery man is clearly not a part of reality. He's part of that character's mind. He's the devil on the shoulder. No, he didn't, indeed. That's absolutely right. Interesting kind of not a comparison, juxtaposition of like the ugly of the brain being blown out to the beautiful countryside around them. This wonderful wilderness. Again, something that Lynch does a lot is kind of have that beauty and ugliness kind of juxtaposition. And it all comes around. See, I get the feeling if I watch this a couple more times, I might kind of get the circular nature of this film just that little bit better. But yeah. very violent feeling end. Bring on the Criterion edition. Yeah, absolutely. I love the fact that we live in a world where there's a lot more of this. A lot of companies that specialise in doing really kind of amazing editions. And for all my criticisms of this film, there is a huge amount of respect for it as well. There's some absolute genius in this film. A lot of it is absolute genius. There's some parts that it doesn't quite stick the landing, which is why I was thinking of it as not the greatest of Lynch's work, but that's only on the story level. Certainly not on the cinematography and all that kind of end of stuff. But yeah, so that was really good. You really want Cold Fish to go on Criterion? Oh, well, that would kill their reputation. Have you actually seen Cold Fish, Kieran? It's quite hard to get hold of these days. But yeah, that's Lost Highway. I'm going to pause that. Despite the fact that it means I'm cutting out. I can take these off as well. Let's put that down there. There we go. Yeah. 5-star pick for me. It always depends on quite which aspects you're looking at for me. Like I say, the story is not quite coherent enough for me to consider it in the upper echelons of Lynch's stuff. Visually, it's incredible. It's quite amazing. In fact, probably one of Lynch's best when you're looking at the visual aspects of it. Although I'm not sure you can compare it to like Eraserhead and stuff like that, because it's a very different nature of that film. No, you're not seeing Cold Fish, but if Armageddon can get a Criterion, why can't Cold Fish get one? I think Criterion chose Armageddon because of the cultural impact of that film, rather than whether it was good or bad. And that's Criterion in a nutshell, really. They look at the film on many different aspects. God, this chair's creaky. On many different kind of like fronts. It's not just is this an amazing movie, it's what is the cultural impact of that film. And Armageddon did have, for better or for worse, a certain cultural impact. It was certainly one of those kind of like massive, extraordinarily popular films for whatever reason. But yeah, although I don't agree with it being particularly popular, my opinion doesn't really matter in that respect. People went to see it, and it kind of spawned an awful lot of copies, to say the least. Despite the issues, I just love the experience. It's a fast-paced Lynch movie for him. Yes, it is. And like I say, despite my criticisms of the film are not to say that the film is bad. It's because it's not. It is an incredible piece of art. It just lacks a little bit in comparison to Lynch's other movies in terms of storytelling. It nearly gets there. Fucking close. But there's just a few bits which don't quite stick the landing. There you go. So Cold Fish can get a Criterion due to its impact on Lampy Man 101. And probably only me, because not many people have seen that film. I will always regard the fact that I had members of the cast thank me for my... or at least kind of strongly agree with my review of that film that they worked on. That was hilarious. Have Armageddon, but in all honesty, it bores me. Maybe need to rewatch it. You probably don't need to rewatch it, to be honest with you. It is what it is. It is the archetypal Hollywood pap, and it was the model for a lot of the films to follow it. It's one of Lexi's faves, so fair enough. You know, people watch films for different reasons. I'm obviously kind of a very specific type of film viewer. Pleasing me usually kind of requires certain kind of things to be in place, which is why Lynch, even with a film that I kind of go, you know, the story's kind of a little bit broken, and I emphasise that it's a little bit broken. There's a few things that are a few glaring cracks for me, which is they stand out enough to kind of bother me just a bit. But I can sit down, watch that film, and enjoy the fuck out of it, because it is, it's amazing to look at. The, you know, the music, the audio, kind of, the direction, the camera work, the acting is just insanely good, and you can get away with certain things when you're kind of done so much of that. Would the Criterion release of Goldfish be the Goldfish release? It'd be the Soggy Trout release, maybe. Buyer swing credit was Eric DeRay. Oh, really? See, that was an interesting character. Although a minor character, they did have that moment. I say I joined Twin Peaks the first time I watched it. My brother insisted that I watched it. When I started watching it, bear in mind it was right close to the end of the first season, and my brother had to sit there and kind of hold my hand, so to speak, and guide me through it, what was going on, you know, what was the history and all that kind of stuff, so for which I will be forever grateful, because yeah. So my love for Lynch, you know, I can partly ascribe to my brother. But Eric DeRay's character in that, because he gets shot and he gets brain damaged, essentially, he becomes something of a simpleton, to say the least, and the only thing he can go is "Nishes," you know. But when he kind of like becomes, you know, when he gets his mind back, essentially, and he's a fucking evil bastard. You know, we're certainly at the beginning. You know, it's yeah. The way he treats Shelley, it is astonishing. He's a hell of an abusive character. But then he sort of comes back. He has a redemption arc in his own right, where he saves her life. So yeah, Leo Johnson. Would it cry? No, me too. I have to really invest in a movie, then rewatch it for the little details. It's really important with David Lynch that you rewatch his films, I think, because you gain more each time you watch them. I think you do, anyway. I don't think you generally get a David Lynch film the first time around. But yeah, certainly, like, you know, Razorhead took me a few watches to get. Inland Empire, I think I had to watch it about 8 times before I really kind of got that stick. And I think this film would become even better, although I think the flaws in the film are serious enough that it will never quite hold together entirely for me. But that said, I can watch it again and again. You know, it's not it's not a bad film just because of that. Just the story's a little broken. Vegetable is the word you're looking for, Glenn. Yeah, he was, wasn't he? And I think that's fair enough. I was with Twin Peaks right from the first airing in 1990. It was an obsession at the time. Yeah, I think it was about, what was the first series? It was about like 10 episodes long or something like that, wasn't it? 10, 12 episodes, and I joined in about 8, I think. I was working in Loughborough at the time. I had about a 35-minute ride on my motorbike to get to and from, so most of the time I was missing it anyway. I wasn't finishing at office hours, to say the least. It was shift work. But yeah. So Gary, if you're watching, thank you, mate. You're partly responsible for tonight. I think my next Lynch will be Straight Story Revisit. Yeah, it's a good film. I'm gonna have to revisit it again. I've watched it twice, I think. Surprisingly good film. I always kind of looked at it. Well, what the hell's the story about a guy that goes across the state on a ride-on lawnmower going to offer? What's David Lynch going to bring to it? And I'm so happy to say that I was very mistaken in that kind of analysis. Good night, Kerry, and I think we're going to say good night to everybody. Thanks for joining. I hope you enjoyed that. I certainly enjoyed that. Kieran, keep your chin up, and I will see you. Don't know if I'm going to do one next week or if it's going to be the week after. I will try and figure that out. But absolutely, we can do the Straight Story on the stream one night. It'll be a Bring Your Own Media again. But yeah, it's gone all right tonight, hasn't it? So why the hell not? But I shall say good night to everybody. Sleep well after that. I will see you next time, whenever that is. It may be next week, it may be the week after. So take care, folks, and see you then.